You were the only one who stopped for my son, when the world just walked past him. The man's voice trembled, his tailored suit soaked from the downpour. He wasn't just anyone, he was Lucas Brandt, the elusive billionaire no one ever saw in public. But tonight, he stood in the rain, staring at a woman with a tattered coat, holding his trembling son close. She looked up at him, confused, unaware of the silent witness she had just moved beyond measure. It began on a gray evening when the sky looked like it couldn't decide whether to storm or sleep. Clouds hung heavy over the city, and the streets were unusually quiet, as if something important was about to happen. Nora Davis clutched her sweater tight against her chest as she hurried down Maple Avenue. The bakery where she worked had closed early due to a power outage, which meant her paycheck would be even lighter this week. Rent was due. Groceries were low. But she told herself, at least I have a roof. That's more than some people. She was about to cross the street when she heard a sob. Faint. Frantic. Out of place. Nora turned her head, eyes scanning the sidewalk. There, near a lamppost, stood a little boy, no older than 4, drenched from head to toe. His tiny yellow raincoat was slipping off his shoulders, and his eyes, they were filled with panic. People walked past him. One man even stepped around him with a grunt, annoyed the child was blocking his path. A woman in heels glanced at him but kept scrolling on her phone. Nora didn't think. She rushed to him. Hey, sweetie, she said, kneeling down. Where's your mommy or daddy? The boy couldn't answer. He just cried harder. Nora did the only thing that made sense. She took off her jacket, wrapped it around him, and scooped him into her arms. It's okay. I've got you now. Inside a sleek black limousine parked just up the block, Lucas Brandt watched everything unfold. He had only looked down at his phone for a second. 1 second. When he looked up again, his son, Charlie, was gone. Security had scattered immediately. His assistant was frantically calling the police. Lucas didn't move. He just stared ahead through the rain-speckled window, heart thudding against his chest like a wild animal trying to escape. And then he saw her. The woman. Not security. Not a concerned parent. Not even a good Samaritan looking to score social points online. Just a regular woman with tired eyes and gentle hands. She picked Charlie up as if he was her own. And Lucas. Lucas couldn't breathe. Nora tried asking questions, but the boy was inconsolable. Charlie, he finally whispered. My name is Charlie. Okay, Charlie. We'll figure this out. She ducked into the entrance of a closed cafe and sat him on her lap, wrapping her arms around him to keep him warm. The rain pounded against the awning above, and thunder cracked through the sky. She gave him her last granola bar. Let him sip from her only water bottle. She called the police. They said they'd come, but the storm had caused a citywide delay. So she waited. With him. 4 hours. And sang to him. Told him stories. Anything to keep the fear out of his little eyes. Lucas had never felt so powerless. He had built empires. Made ruthless deals. Commanded rooms with just a nod. But when it came to his son, he was just a man. A desperate, terrified father. When the car finally pulled up in front of the cafe, Lucas jumped out before the driver could open the door. Rain soaked through his suit instantly, but he didn't care. He saw her, rocking Charlie slowly back and forth, humming something that sounded like a lullaby. Charlie looked up and gasped, "Daddy." Nora turned. Lucas froze. He hadn't expected her to look so normal. No makeup. No designer coat. Just kindness in its rawest form. She stood slowly and handed Charlie over with a smile. He was very brave, she said softly. Lucas pulled his son close. I know. You could have just walked by, he said, his voice hoarse. I couldn't, she replied. He needed someone. Lucas reached into his coat and pulled out a thick envelope. Please, take this. I know money doesn't fix everything, but... She stepped back, shaking her head. I didn't do it for that. I know. That's why it means even more. A week later, Nora went back to her regular life. The rent was still due. Her hours were still short. She kept working, day by day, the moment with Charlie tucked away in her heart. She never expected to hear from him again. Until a black car pulled up outside her apartment building. Inside the envelope Lucas had tried to give her that night, wasn't just money. It was a letter. A job offer. An opportunity. But Nora hadn't opened it until now. Head of Family Outreach, it read. Brant Foundation. A chance to help lost children, just like Charlie. There was also a handwritten note. You didn't just help my son. You reminded me what it means to care without expecting. Let me help you do more of that, for others who need it too. 2 years later, Nora walked through the halls of the Brant Children's Center, where hundreds of kids found hope every month. Charlie ran into her arms after school, hugging her like he always did. Hi, Auntie Nora. Lucas stood by the doorway, smiling. He had never remarried. But he often said, family isn't always blood. The rain that once poured with cold silence now watered a garden of hope. All because one woman stopped, while everyone else walked away. Sometimes the greatest acts of kindness happen when no one is watching. And sometimes, someone is watching, someone whose life you might change forever.